Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you today to the webinar. The webinar we're going to be presenting is Certified Safety Committee Requirements in Pennsylvania. And I'm Dan Larson. I'm a certified industrial hygienist with the Pennsylvania OSHA Consultation Program, and that's located at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. So a little background on this subject. As safety and health consultants, we do hundreds of visits every year at small businesses in Pennsylvania. And one of the questions that we always ask when we're doing our visits is, do you have a certified safety committee in place? And we get lots of answers to that question. Some companies are very familiar with certified safety committees. Some companies have no idea what that is. And the goal today is just to explain what certified safety committees are in Pennsylvania, what the requirements are, just a general overview of what are the Pennsylvania requirements for a certified safety committee. Of course, we'll have an option for you to ask questions so we can give you answers. To do that, we're going to use the chat. And so if you have a question, submit that through chat. If for some reason it's a very technical question and we need more time to give you a thorough response, we'll post that answer on our webinar on our website within 7 days of this webinar. So what is the overall purpose of the certification? Well, the purpose really is accident and illness prevention. Certified safety committees are put in place to help you, the employers, provide a more safe and healthy workplace for your employees. To do that, they ask that you establish safety committees. You're going to have certain criteria established by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania that you have to put in place. And one of the big benefits that we always mention is that you get a 5% reduction in your workers' compensation premium. And of course, management and ownership is always interested in that. So the process for certification begins with an initial application. To do the initial application, you're going to need to file what is called a LIBC 372 application for certification of workplace safety committees. You file one application as an employer, no matter how many workplaces you have in Pennsylvania. You have to submit that initial application between 90 and 30 days prior to the annual renewal of your workers' comp policy, self-insurance renewal, or your group self-insurance fund. And if you get certified, that certification is good for 1 year, then you have to recertify. The recertification or the renewal is another application that you submit between 90 and 15 days prior to the annual renewal of your current workers' compensation policy, self-insurance renewal, or group self-insurance fund. And you can do these applications online, and I'll show you that later, through the HANDS system. And that's the preferred method. That's the method that the state of Pennsylvania would like you to use to submit these applications. To be eligible for certification, there's several things that have to be in place. Number one, your committee has to be located in Pennsylvania. The committee has to be in existence and operating. You have to have a safety committee in existence and operating for 6 consecutive calendar months prior to the submission of your application. The committee represents all the different operations in your workplace, and the committee is composed of a minimum of 2 employer representatives and 2 employee representatives. That's important to note. You have to have 2 employer representatives and 2 employee representatives. Then once you have that 2-to-2 ratio met, then you're going to continue to increase and have more employee representatives. The definitions of what an employer representative is, if you have the authority to do one or more of the following: select or hire an employee, remove or terminate an employee, direct the manner of an employee performance, or in some way control the employee, then you would be considered an employer representative. If you do not do any of those 4 things, then you would meet the definition as an employee representative to sit on the committee. A person cannot function as both. They're either an employer representative or employee representative. Your committee members, they should be full-time. You don't want to have just part-time members of your committee. They want to be full-time. You can have non-members or guests involved, but they're not officially counted. They're not allowed to vote. Non-members are not allowed to vote. You have to have a quorum for each meeting. So what is a quorum? A quorum is half of the committee size plus one. So if you have a committee of 6 members, then you would have 3 plus 1. You would need at least 4 members to meet a quorum. You can attend via conference call or applications like Zoom. And the only thing that is required is if you attend by calls or Zoom, you note that in the minutes. So what about committee formation and membership? There's different types of committees depending on the employer. If you have a single employer, single workplace in Pennsylvania, then you can have one workplace. You would have one workplace and one committee. If you have more than one workplace in Pennsylvania, if an employer has multiple locations in the state, you have a couple different options. You can do a centralized workplace, and that is one committee in a central location that with representation for each outlying workplace location. The other thing you can do is you can actually have a separate individual committee at each workplace. That would be a multiple workplace, multiple committees formation. And just one thing to note there, if you have multiple committees and one worksite committee fails an audit, then the employer loses certification for all the committees. Committee formation and membership, there must have procedures in place to retain a core of experienced members on the committee. Obviously, you want to have experienced core members on the committee at all times. The employee representatives must be permitted to take reasonable time from work to perform these duties. They cannot be penalized in pay or benefits while performing committee duties. They must join the committee for a continuous 1-year term from the date of the first meeting. And again, you're trying to set up membership rotation procedures as an employer. So you want to have so many committee members that are new every year, but you don't want to replace all the committee members every year. You want to just rotate through committee members, again, so that you retain a core of experienced members on the committee. Some of the committee responsibilities highlight here. The committee is going to represent the accident and illness prevention concerns of employees at the workplace. They're going to review the employer's hazard detection and accident and illness prevention programs, and they're going to formulate proposals when they're needed. The committee is also going to develop procedures to perform periodic workplace inspections. The goal of those inspections is to locate and identify health and safety hazards. And then once those hazards, or if those hazards are identified, then that's going to be documented in writing. And then the committee is going to develop and make proposals to the employers on the correction of those hazards. The committee is also going to review any incidences that occur, which would result in any work-related deaths, injuries, or illness. They're also going to investigate any complaints from employees about health and safety hazards. They're going to conduct follow-up evaluations if a health and safety hazard is identified and a corrective measure is put in place. The committee is going to do follow-up evaluations where they're going to look at the safety and health equipment or the procedures that were put in place, and then determine if it was effective, to assess their effectiveness. And then they're going to establish a system to allow the committee members to obtain safety-related proposals, reports of hazards, and other information directly from persons involved in the operation of the workplace. Committee responsibilities, as I said earlier, you have to have a quorum of committee members present. You must meet monthly. Again, a quorum is half plus one. You're going to develop operating procedures, rules and bylaws that are going to describe what the committee's duties are. You're going to maintain membership lists. You're going to have a written agenda for each committee meeting. You're going to maintain attendance lists. One big thing that you're going to do is you're going to take and maintain minutes of each committee meeting, and the employer is to review those minutes, and then copies of those minutes are going to be posted in the workplace and then made available be made available for all employees, and then the minutes are also sent to each committee member every month. To ensure that the evaluation, the committee is going to ensure that the reports, evaluations, and proposals are part of the minutes. The minutes are going to include things like inspection reports, reports on specific hazards and the corrective measures that were taken, any reports on workplace injuries or illnesses, and what are the management responses to the committee reports. And any decision that is made by the committee is going to be made by majority vote. And then committee records are going to have to be maintained, and you have to maintain those records for a minimum of 5 years. Those records are going to include things like membership lists, meeting agendas, minutes, attendance records, and training documentation. So what are the management responsibilities with workplace safety committees? Well, of course, they're going to have to provide support. Management is going to provide the time, the effort, the money to help the certified safety committees move forward. Management is going to promote the positive effects of the committee and how that's benefiting the workplace. They're going to have to support the training for the committee members because certain training is required. If the committee comes up with safety policies and procedures, then management is going to have to enforce them. And then, of course, management is also responsible for attending committee meetings. Just general employees have responsibilities. They need to follow safe work practices and procedures. They need to identify safety and health hazards that they may find or see. If there's any unsafe conditions or practices in place, you want your employees to know that they should report them, and just to make general suggestions to the committee for improving workplace safety. So here are some of the basic member responsibilities that you have. Obviously, you need to attend the monthly meetings that are put in place. You want to notify any employees in your work area. Hey, you're a representative of the committee. If they have any safety concerns, come to you about them. You want to be watchful and note any unsafe conditions and acts and report them. You want to be responsive to any employees that come to you with concerns. You want to hear what they have to say and listen to them. And then you want to follow up. You want to follow up with them and say, hey, was this addressed? Do you think we need to do anything more? Be sure and follow up. That's very important. And of course, obviously, you want to ask any employees that you're involved with, do they have any suggestions for safety concerns or safety issues, how things can be resolved, and discuss those safety issues with employees. There is a committee chairperson that is put in place. This person should be accountable to top management. Of course, they facilitate or they run the meetings. They ensure that the agenda is followed and that everyone is heard. And then the chairperson should be rotated. You don't want to have one chairperson every year or every month. You want to, as a company, you want to develop a policy. All right, we're going to rotate that chairperson responsibility to every month, quarterly, or yearly. Just some of the basic things that safety committees can do. They can review and update safety training, develop safe work practices in the workplace. If there's certain personal protective equipment, safety equipment, or devices that need to be implemented, then they can make obviously they can make recommendations for that. If any incidences occur, any accidents occur, illnesses occur, then they can review those reports. They can develop action items from any reports or safety inspections that occur. And obviously, they just provide an avenue for the employees in safety-related issues. One of the big requirements, if you have a certified safety committee in Pennsylvania, is training. Before you can submit your initial application, you must have initial certification training of all members of the Workplace Safety Committee. And then if your application is approved and you get a certified safety committee in place, you have to do annual recertification training for everyone on the Workplace Safety Committee. So those are the two minimum training requirements. There's an initial certification training required, and that's before you can even submit your initial application. And then every year thereafter, when you do your recertification, your Workplace Safety Committee is also going to have recertification training. The training topics that the training is going to cover would be things like hazard detection and inspections, accident and illness prevention and investigation. What is the committee of the safety structure and how does it operate? The training has to include substance abuse awareness and prevention training, and really any other safety and health concerns that you might have that are specific to your business should be covered in the training. The training has to be provided by a Pennsylvania Bureau of Workers' Compensation certified or recognized trainer. It has to be a qualified person who does this training. And I give an example there of PAS, and we'll talk more about them a little bit as a training provider. The trainer qualifications and their documentation must be included in the application when you submit it. Some examples of certified or qualified trainers. This isn't a list of everybody, but just a list of some of the ones I saw. If you're a doctor, if you're a certified industrial hygienist or a certified safety professional, certified occupational health nurse, there's a few of the people who can do the training for you. It certainly isn't all inclusive. There's others. You just have to get certified through the Bureau of Workers' Compensation. Committee member training, there are written records required of the training. It's very important that you document training, and it has to include the names of committee members, the dates of the training, the period for which you're providing training, the methodology, any names and credentials of personnel conducting the training, the names of any training organizations that are sponsoring your training, if that applies. What location did you do the training at, and what topics did you cover? I mentioned this earlier, and this is a training provider that we're very familiar with, and that's the Pennsylvania Training for Health and Safety, also referred to as PAS. I put their information there on the slide. They're an approved qualified training provider, and the nice thing about PAS is that everything they provide you is done at no cost. It's free, and they have many different types of training, which includes the initial certification training and the renewal certification training required for certified safety committees. Their address is there, phone number, there's an email address and a website. You can contact them if with any questions you may have about training. This is also a screenshot of the PAS website. You can see there that they have training calendar and resources, lots of information available for you. They have an extensive list of training. I will bring to your attention that over on the right under resources, if you look, there's HANDS listed there, HANDS. That's the link. If you want to go in, you can submit your initial and renewal applications. Just go to that website, go to that link, and that'll take you through the process of getting your applications in. I just wanted to list some of the training, again, that I think they're such a good provider that I wanted to list some of the training that PAS does offer. Obviously, I mentioned that they do offer the initial certification training and the annual recertification training. They also offer training creating effective safety committees, how to perform incidents investigations, how to perform hazard identifications, how to have good and effective safety committee communication, how to investigate near misses that occur. They also do provide the opioid use disorder training that's required, medical marijuana, job safety, hazard analysis. If you want to understand how to do a hazard analysis at your workplace, you can get training through PAS for that. They offer training on basic things like safety culture, safety for supervisors, and safety committee leadership. So let's walk through what you do for certification and how the process works. First of all, the employer submits an initial application to the Bureau of Workers' Compensation. Again, you go into the PAS website and you go into the hands, you can do it that way. The Bureau of Workers' Comp will review your application, and if your committee meets the requirements, they will grant certification approval. At that point, you as the employer must agree and certify to operate your workplace safety committee, as required by in the requirements. And then they will submit a letter of certification approval to your insurer or your group self-insurance fund. And at that point, you'll receive an initial 5% reduction of your workers' compensation premium. That reduction is effective at the next policy renewal period following the date of certification. And they'll also notify the Pennsylvania Compensation Rating Bureau that you're an approved employer. If for some reason you submit your application and it's disapproved, the employer will be notified of the specific reasons for disapproval. You can submit a corrected application for reconsideration. You can actually challenge the decision that they made for disapproval and challenge the disapproval determination. And some of the most common reasons that applications are not approved are first is that they were not submitted in the defined time frame. If you did not have a committee in place, a safety committee in place for 6 full consecutive calendar months prior to the submission of your application, you'll get disapproved. If you are missing monthly meetings or not holding meetings with a qualified quorum, it's a reason for disapproval. If the committee members do not have adequate training prior to the submission of the application, the committee members must be comprised of at least 4 members, 2 employee representatives, and 2 employee representatives. If you don't submit an agenda with your initial application with an outline of topics for an upcoming meeting, it can be disapproved. If your committees are not performing a review of incidents, you can be disapproved. If you're not performing your periodic workplace inspections, your application may not be approved. And when you submit your application, you have to include your workers' comp policy details, and that's for the current policy period. And in your application, you need to include job titles for each position, each member that is on the committee. So once you have submitted your initial application and you obtain certification, then every year you're going to have to submit a renewal. The renewal application is LIBC 372R, and you submit that. That affidavit has to be submitted between 90 and 15 calendar days prior to the annual renewal of your workers' comp policy, self-insurance renewal year, or group self-insurance fund year. And one thing to keep in mind, if during that year you've implemented additional safety committees, then you have to go through the process of getting each of those safety committees certified, or before your renewal certification can be granted. If you do receive an audit, which they do audit, the state of Pennsylvania will audit sometimes, they're normally going to ask you for 3 years of records to ensure that the necessary information is in place. So that's the process that is used for your initial application, your renewal application. Again, that can be done online. And so let's talk now. Certainly, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and it affects every type of businesses. Let's talk about how this is affecting the workplace safety committees. Right now, if your business is temporarily closed and you can't do meetings, you can't do the monthly meetings, you're not going to be penalized. It is recommended that if possible, If you're doing telework or things like that, you do virtual meetings. So if you can't meet in person and get everybody in the same location, then bring people together through things like Zoom and do virtual meetings. If your business is closed and you cannot hold the meetings that are required, when you're doing your recertification application, make sure that you answer no to whether you're holding meetings, and then just explain why. Tell them because of COVID-19 issues at your workplace. Explain that in the block that's provided. When evaluating compliance with the regulations, the safety committee process is evaluated for a 3-year period. So it's not necessarily just going to evaluate this current year that we're in. The state would look at a 3-year period. And they'll also accept late submissions of your applications if the deadlines fall under the defined crisis period. You just want to contact the Bureau of Workers' Compensation once your company resumes daily operations and get those applications submitted. If you have questions, if you're looking for ideas on how to continue to have workplace safety committee meetings, or just any guidance at all, again, a good resource is PATH. I put the email address there on how you can send them an email and ask them for ideas, and they've got lots of things they can offer you. So I just want to summarize lastly here, why does it make sense for your companies or for companies to pursue a certified safety committee at their facilities? And these are in no particular order, but first of all, you're going to have an increased awareness of safety. If you do identify risks at your workplace, you know what? You're going to create a plan to correct them. It's going to facilitate a spirit of cooperation in developing and carrying out measures to improve safety in the plant. It's going to put safety and integrate safety and health priorities into the corporate culture. Employees are going to practice safer work habits. Employees are going to be more productive. You're going to have a reduction in lost time due to work-related illnesses and injuries. You're going to have a reduction in costs. You're going to have a reduction in liability. And there's going to be an encouragement of safety training for both employees and management. And last, and certainly very important, you're going to get a 5% discount on your workers' compensation insurance premium. So I hope that information was helpful to you. Again, if you have questions about something, the chat feature is open and you can submit those through chat. Let me just tell you a little bit about who we are. Again, I work for Pennsylvania OSHA Consultation. It's part of the Indiana University of Pennsylvania. And we go out to facilities and perform safety and health visits. We do it free of charge. There's no cost to the program. We perform hundreds of these visits a year. If you have an interest in that, you would just go to our website, click on that red button where it says free consultation request form, and just provide some very basic information to us. And we'd be happy to, then the visit would be assigned to a consultant, and then that consultant will contact you and you can discuss what you're looking for, set up a time that's good for the consultant to come out. This is our contact page, obviously Pennsylvania OSHA Consultation Office with our phone number, our website address. We're also in Facebook and Twitter. And feel free to contact us if you have questions or you think you might have an issue at your facility. Don't just call the number, check us out. We'll be happy to help you with anything you might have. I want to thank you for your time and attention. I just want to bring to note that there is an upcoming webinar in February. That webinar is going to be on respiratory protection, nursing homes, assisted living, and other long-term care facilities. That's February 10th at 10:30. Again, thank you for your time and attention. Please feel free to contact us if we can help you in any way, and I hope you have a fantastic day.